You know what? Like, I can fully see you and Drew with the kids walking through a field. This is going to be like the Christmas
Oh, and
photo.
that's like us in the music video, essentially.
Yeah.
With the kids, though, with the kids.
How cool would it be to have as a giveaway these artists? Like, you get to win being in a video with your family.
That would be pretty awesome.
I mean, because, they just grab actors, but why not grab a real family and see the real love, the way that they really look at each other? Wow, this is cool. All right, see, you just turned me on to some new tunes.
Gotta open up your aperture for different artists, get into like the teen girl vibe.
Well, I didn't know anything about Casey Musgraves until my Maddie turned me on to that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was like listening to a song with her and I got like all teared up. I'm like, what is happening to me right now? So kids are good for us, right? You gotta love them. So Ashley Rose, if cybersecurity was a TV show, if it was like a TV series, what would Living Security's role be? Would you be a hero, a hacker, or the plot twist?
Ooh, that's a good one. I was before you got to the third, I was originally going to say the hero for, obvious reasons, right? We're here to identify and protect individuals and help secure organizations. And I think that is like a very heroic mission that we're on. But I think I'm going to go with plot twist because for the last, 2 to 3 decades, all we've been doing in cyber is like really trying to focus on like our tools, our technology, our processes. And I think people were just greatly overlooked. And I mean, that's, this is kind of getting into like why we exist, right? We looked at a market and said, humans are the number one cause of cybersecurity risk. And we're still trying to shove like boring, dry training down their throats once a year and like call ourselves secure. And we came up with like a whole new way of doing it. And usually plot twists, right? There is like this kind of culmination. And I think right now, like where we are today, we're starting to see so much traction, acceleration, momentum when it comes to the human side of cyber. We just got back from RSA and like human-centric security, like, even, AI, I would say is expanding upon with agents, expanding upon like the human or the non-human or the agentic attack surface. Like that is first and foremost, like top of mind for most CISOs today. So I'm going to call it plot twist.
In a way, we go. Hello, friends. My name is EP, and this is another epic hype adventure. Today's show is brought to you by Kendo, AI-powered ops that pay for themselves. Kendo delivers measurable value through faster resolution, stronger security, and fewer manual tasks. It's automation that thinks, adapts, and scales so your teams, like Ashley's teams, can focus on what really matters. If you guys want to get more information, head over to kendo.ai. All right, so let's jump into today's guest, who she is, what she's all about. And let's think about this for a second. Most companies talk a big game about cybersecurity. Meanwhile, the real threat isn't the tech. It's Brad in accounting. You heard Ashley say it earlier, clicking away, and he's clicking away on, I don't know, a FedEx link. Now, today's guest isn't here for checkbox training or boring slide decks. She's the CEO, turning security awareness into a weaponized blend of behavioral science, data, and seriously good design. She's gamifying the fight against breaches and making CISOs rethink what human risk really means. Buckle up. From a Living Security, give it up for the boss behind the movement. Her name is Ashley Rose. Ashley, what is up?
Hey, AP, thanks for having me. Love how you started off with saying the security awareness and training aspect, because truly human risk management is the plot twist we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited to be here.
So, let's start with the human risk. I want you to take credit where credit is due. What are some, like, your background is marketing, and I want you to talk about that because there's people watching. that are going to like, hey, how did she get to where she's at? And you know that my show, Epic Hype, it's all about kind of exploring the DNA of the person. And then what comes out of that is the solution that you've put up on deck. So your marketing background, you did this for, out of the gate for a few years. First of all, how many years has Living Security been up and running now?
About almost 7.5 years. So
It doesn't feel like that. Like, I feel like I was kicking it with you at the Fairmont in Austin, like last year, talking about this concept and smart AV and bringing like some concepts together. So 7 years, when did you make a pivot from a marketing standpoint and change the verbiage? I mean, think about, you just mentioned it earlier, RSA, AI, it's everywhere. And people are like, it all sounds the same. When did you make a pivot and come up with terms for your marketing to talk about your solution? What was that buzzword or that term or terminology? Take us through that journey. What is it that stood out for you where you're like, you know what? I got to make a change where I stand out of this Red Sea and people are going to recognize me and my company and our culture and our solution.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for actually asking about this. I love telling this story. It's maybe one of my favorites. So, if I look back, and I often do, and I share this with the team, I look back to our first ever pitch deck for Living Security. Like, we went out to raise money for the very first time. It was horrible design. There was, none of that. But the vision for what is now our human risk management platform, this idea of integrating together all of this data on our people, which includes behavioral data, threat data, so context to user risk, as well as access and identity information, and then correlating that together into a risk score, and then being smarter on how we intervene and mitigate. Like, that was fully spelled out in pitch deck 1. But again, there was no concept of what this was or terminology. And actually, like, for the first few years in the market, we recognized like the customers and the buyers in the market like weren't even ready for this. They were still like so focused on how do we like better engage our people with training? How do we make it fun and consumable? Like, and that stuff matters. And frankly, like, oftentimes has to be at the foundation of a strong cultural and program to like move into the next step. So we really focused there. But it was actually through 2020 where a lot of companies had to make a pivot that we recognized that now that employees were outside of the four walls, right, the protected walls of the corporate environment, like, we started seeing CISOs wake up and say, wow, like, this attack surface it's sprawling, right? It's always been very large, but like they frankly thought that it was contained. And I would argue it wasn't, but now it's even like more robust, right? It's more, there's a greater sprawl because we're now at home and we're traveling and we're trying to connect from everywhere. And so we started to see some of our earliest adopting customers start asking about, like, how do we get better visibility into human risk? How do we start quantifying this? How can I make smarter decisions? And that's when we said, the time is now. The time is now to like really put our mark or our ownership and actually like create the verbiage for what this is. And it was really like through a lot of conversations where we, of course, human was important, right?
Right.
But then the other piece was like this is not a purely like compliance approach. This is actually a risk management approach. Because at the end of the day, if we were going to completely remove all risk from organizations, you know what we'd have to do? We'd get rid of all of our people, right?
Yeah, that's one of my daily jokes. Yeah, it's part of my
We'd
cyber track. I always talk about at the beginning of my cybersecurity track in front of a group of people. I say, I have the solution for cybersecurity. Get rid of your people.
exactly.
They're
Like,
like,
there'd be no organization to protect. So therefore,
"Clicker."
we have to assume some risk, right?
Yep.
We're gonna understand our risk tolerance. We're gonna accept some risk. Others we're gonna, insure against, and we're gonna remediate and mitigate. And so, like, this is a risk management conversation at the end of the day. And so that's where the terminology of human risk management came from. And so then we went online, we bought the domain humanriskmanagement.com. If you go there now, it'll redirect to Living Security, although we are going to do something with that.
Were you surprised that it was available? Were you shocked when it was available?
No, because we were like so ahead of the curve. Like, we were so ahead of our times. And then we had our marketing team at the time come and say, this is a bad idea. They're like, this is a bad idea because nobody's searching for this. Like, I can't buy up any keywords. I'm like, hey, keywords are cheap. Nobody's searching. They're like, yeah, but we're not going to get any traffic. And I was like, Drew and I at the time, we sat and we're like, no, this is the right thing, because if we keep trying to tell a different story
Yeah.
within that red sea of security awareness and training, we're going to look, sound, feel, be confused with everyone else. And so,
Right.
we bought the domain, we started spending a lot of time in education. And look, when you do these things, like, I believed it was going to happen, but like, did everybody else? And so last year, at the end of the year, in Forrester, rolled out their human risk management wave, right? Their newest wave on the category,
Saw that.
and it was called human risk management, and we were
Nice.
named leaders, and that was one of the proudest moments.
Oh, wait. So pause. Forrester created that. How much of an influence did your company have for them to come up with that term? Because technically, if I heard you right, and correct me if I'm wrong, you came up with human risk management. Yes.
Don't tell. I'm going to give all the credit to Forrester, but yes, we did come up with the term. We own the domain. Like, there's no way
this is awesome, because Ashley, what we're also doing, we're not just talking about your startup, and everybody needs to know this. Ashley's a genius marketer before she got involved in this, so I'm helping kind of give her background. Every startup is out there. You have to, at some point, need to have somebody on board, and it can be chief of product, it could be director of marketing, VP of marketing, a CMO, whoever. There's got to be one person that is influencing the biggest influencers that are pay to play, Forrester and Gartner. So, and sometimes, I mean, listen, I usually use silence for a lot of comparisons, right? Because here's a unicorn I worked with. I remember Greg Fitzgerald, who's there in Austin with you. I remember him being that guy, and then at one point he literally went out and hired another person, Skip. I know you're listening. Another person from Austin, by the way, Skipper. He was the guy that was in charge of talking to them. It's a matter of training them what we're building, because think about this. There's so many different technologies coming at them. It's easy for you and I to get excited about our brands that we're behind, but they're like, yeah, sounds like, feels like, but slowly but surely it's a process, right, Ashley? It's a process, and there's steps that you take, and you have hacked or cracked the code. Bravo.
Well, look, I'm going to give credit to my team, where it's due. So this was not like a one person effort, right? And, I think, like, Drew, coming in from the space as well, my co-founder, my husband, I've had a lot of clout influence there as well, and really like nurtured that relationship with Forrester over time. And, what we've seen, it's been truly amazing, because not only did we partner, right, with these analyst communities to help build up the terminology, but we actually knocked down the gorilla, right? Like
nice.
the 800 million pound, wherever they are, a gorilla in this space, KnowBe4, and all of the other competitors have now rebranded and are now talking about human risk management. So again,
cool.
really a really cool experience, and something that, we'll, I think we've learned a lot. We've had a lot of success, and hopefully we can help others do the same.
Well, let me say this. I mean, in every startup that has made monumental strides and has become that unicorn, and not just had to become a unicorn, but have made great success. There was a huge 50 million pound gorilla in the room. I referenced silence earlier. McAfee and Symantec were the two we were going up against. It was us and CrowdStrike looking up this hill going, are we really doing this? Yeah, and we did. You're stepping into a ring 7 years ago with KnowBe4. And KnowBe4, props to them. They've had a great run and they've got a solution. But at the end of the day, I see a lot of CISOs, because I used to sell that, Ashley, a couple of MSSPs I worked with, I could sell their product. And that I've brought you into other MSSPs I worked with. And it's a check the box for a lot of people in charge of security. I have to get the training. It meets the compliance requirements. And it's almost like people that get the shots for their dogs, maybe their kids too, but that's a whole different story. But the point is like, oh, well, I have to do it. Yeah, but do you actually understand that Jimmy in finance and Heather over in marketing and, Rhonda in sales, like, do you actually know that they're clicking on the same thing and why they're doing it and how they're how their brains are working and what they know, and more importantly, what they don't know. So you're diving into the actual element and you're bringing out a whole different angle. I want to ask you the first question to kind of drive into human risk management with living security. With AI, you mentioned it earlier, with AI dominating the headlines, how is your company leveraging or protecting against AI when it comes to human risk and behavioral threats?
Yeah, great question. And I think top of mind for all security leaders today. So from our standpoint, right, AI is a double-edged sword. It's used by attackers to both like personalize scams, but also has to be used by defenders to build those adaptive defenses. So frankly, we're doing both, right? We're aware of the threats that are coming into our employee base and into into our organization. So doing things like identifying shadow AI usage. This is huge. And so through some of our integration partners, we're able to then see like which users are using which models, which ones are sanctioned and are not sanctioned. And one of the important things that we're talking about with customers is that we're frankly early in how we understand how we produce policies around our AI usage. And what we don't want to do is, from a risk management perspective, we don't want to stand in the way of innovation. And so what we talk to a lot of CISOs about is, okay, if we can get the visibility on who's using what, when, and why, then we can make better decisions on how we intervene. And maybe that's a redirection. So let's say Susie in accounting is using Claude, but we have a sanctioned version of ChatGPT OpenAI within our environment that's secured. Okay, well, we see Susie on Claude, right? We're gonna get that data signal in. We're going to send her a prompt through Microsoft Teams, Slack, or her email, letting her know that, hey, did you know that we have this sanctioned version of OpenAI here? It's available to you. And here's like a quick training moment on how to best handle data in a secure way while using these types of models. So that's an example of like a redirect that we can do through a shadow AI use case, right? So that's figuring out, how do we help secure against the risk that AI is bringing to our organizations? On the flip side, our unified platform has also been developed with an AI risk model, right? So through Unify, we did a third-party research report with this firm called Scientia. And what we found is, because our customers are integrating 10 to 12 different data points across their security stack, we're actually able to give 3 times more visibility into human risk over a traditional SAT platform like KnowBe4, like a Proofpoint. And that visibility is it's unmatched, right? It's an absolutely essential requirement to be able to effectively manage our risk. And so that whole risk model, right, that's delivering the insights and the risk quantification is also backed by AI. The second one would be, we also recently launched at RSA AI-powered phishing simulations. So think about fighting AI with AI. Well, we have so much data and intelligence in our platform, and we can like essentially take all that intelligence and then produce highly contextual and personalized spear phishing campaigns that go out to employees. And so as like phishing is becoming more sophisticated by the attackers, we need to actually increase and up level our training strategies against it, right?
Yeah, social engineering. Yeah, so against social engineering, right?
Yeah,
that's incredible. It's amazing just watching how the company has transformed over a very short period of time. You said that humans aren't the weakest link, that they're more the targeted ones. So how does living security flip the narrative into a strength? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, these are adults and people, and we need to shift from this shame-based, like, don't click this, to real time and like risk and context aware defense, right? And so let me give you an example of how our platform does that. So one of the biggest value propositions, we talked about visibility, but how do we identify those 8 to 12% of users that are most vulnerable? Not to blame them, but to actually protect them with context and care. And so, for instance, when we see somebody browsing malicious websites or potentially clicking on links and they have access to a lot of sensitive data, they're getting highly targeted, right? We're able to kind of cross correlate all this information. And then we can send them a very timely, contextual aware training nudge, moment, or redirection to get them back on track. And so we're making the assumption, especially in these cases, that these are non-malicious users. They're trying to get their job done. They're trying to work smarter, not harder. And they need to be reminded, and this needs to be top of mind for them. And so let's not shove a 30-minute training campaign or training module down their throat, covering everything from, social engineering to proper data handling to passwords. If they're like setting really strong passwords and doing really great with data handling, and they need a reminder about like how to identify a secure website, right? Let's talk to them about that in the right time, in the right moment. Let's not waste their time in all these other areas. And so it's really about moving from this spray and pray, one size fits all training that's essentially wasting your employees' time.
Love that. Yep, that's hitting it right on the head. That's the customization.
Yeah, it's empowering them with the right training at the right time with the right context based on their behavior, right? It's empowerment, not punishment.
So let's talk about that because, not a knock against them, but, they're the big monster in the room. And sorry, after a while, if you're not doing something new and fresh and evolving, maturing, along comes a newbie around the bend. It was something really hot, which is what Living Security has. So security awareness as a whole, security awareness training. The email comes across, and whether it's Brenda or Rick, what's the first thing they do? Guilty. Oh, God, yeah. Get to it when I get to it. And then you get the email. Hey, got to get this done within the next 14 days. Hey, got to get this done within the next. So why, how do you flip that? It's been stale for so many years, but you're gamifying, the behavioral science. What's the data showing you in terms of the real impact? So 2 questions. One, what are you hearing as far as feedback when people are getting the email that they have to engage with a living security module or whatever you actually call it? And then number 2, what's the actual real impact that you're seeing from the data itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with the data because I'm really proud of this stat. As I said, we did a third-party research report with Scientia right ahead of RSA so that we could look across all of our customers, right? All the action plans that they were implementing, all the data, and say, what is the result that on average Living Security is like delivering to the market, right? And we're going to be releasing a much longer report here upcoming. Cool. Think about our report as like the double click into the Verizon DBIR, right? But all about human risk management. So you talked about a book earlier. This report is going to be like the first step, and we're excited to be able to share some like industry trends and things like that. So, but the 2 stats that really came out, one, I mentioned earlier, 3 times as much visibility into your human attack surface as compared to other platforms. So visibility is key. The second is we've actually seen up to a 90% reduction in exposure to human risk for those who are implementing Unified's adaptive interventions. Wow. And so that's phenomenal, right? Up to 90%. We're not going to completely reduce all risk unless all humans are out, but 90% is very, very strong reduction. So that's from an impact perspective. And I'm going to share some other customer stories. But I actually want to change the way that we think and talk about gamification, behavioral science. A lot of times when people talk about that, they're saying, oh, a badge for this, point for this, which is great. Like, and look, we've done that. We have team-based exercises that like provide rewards and badges, and like those things are great. But what we've actually seen to really work well, and this still falls under the context of gamification, are things, are employee scorecards and manager scorecards. And simply what this is it's just holding a mirror up, right, in front of the individual or in front of the team and saying, here's where you stand. And here's where you stand as compared to others within the organization. And why is that so powerful? Well, first, nobody likes to lose. And if you do, like, that's, especially leaders, right? Like top leaders, like people hate losing. They want to win. Yeah. They also want recognition. They want to know that they're doing a good job, and they want others to see that, right? So when you have a scorecard that others are looking at, That's pretty strong motivation to improve and make sure that you're like on the top of the list. And also, you're just being respectful. You're treating them like the adult that they are.
Yep.
Just tell me what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And how can I improve? Should I go download a password manager, right? Do I need to, whatever, like, do I need to report this next phishing email that comes in? Like, what are the things that are going to get me the points? Like we always said, you can't manage what you can't measure. And so we have to take the measurement, we put it in front of our employees, we put it in front of our teams, and we let the data do its job. So let me share a couple customer stories from.
Okay, share the stories, but then I just got to ask a quick question. I got to know this. Who are the employees with, generally speaking, of all the departments? Where do the salespeople generally fall? Upper tier, middle tier, or bottom tier?
So, and we like to distinguish behaviors. I'll tell you, like salespeople are, visiting a lot of potentially malicious websites. But look, a lot of organizations that we talk to, right? So their web hygiene is typically lower. But a lot of organizations that we talk to are like, we're okay with that. And because the salespeople they're researching competitors, they're researching their buyers, right? They need to understand, like, so they're out there, they're searching and they're doing their job, right? They're trying to get context to be like better at their decisions. So, and then, we think about social engineering and like salespeople open all their emails, because they need to, is there like a PO in there? Right? Like, is there a new deal in here? So
is there, please? Click.
I know, right? So, we do see that there's oftentimes a lot of risk, but again, this is where the conversation comes up. Like, okay, do we need to put another like layer of controls on this department's policy, right? Or this technology to help them operate in a secure way, but still in a way that's going to get their job done, where they're successful, or they're closing deals.
So you're a complement to browser security, email security. I don't think anybody can say, oh, well, hey, I have living security, so I don't need email, abnormal. I don't need browser, aware, or what is the company? I just keep aware, or I don't need Seraphic. I just got living. No, you need them all. But what's great about what you're able to provide, you said a quote earlier, can't measure what you don't.
You can't manage what you don't measure.
Can't manage what you don't. Try it again. Can't manage what you can't measure.
Or what you don't measure, right? So I think so let's go on this thread. Like, yes, we are a complement to your existing security stack, and we make it better because we take all of the data on the users that exists across all your systems. It's siloed today. We bring it all together, and we give you a single pane of glass on your user, right? And then we can take that information and we can feed that back into your system, back into your email security, back into your web application firewall. And we can help you set context-based or risk-based policies, controls, make decisions based on that user context. So now all of a sudden you have a stronger and more effective SEG. You have a stronger and more effective WAF, right? We have a stronger and more effective endpoint policy. So like, it's all about adding context to these tools to increase their efficacy. That's where we live.
So cool. And you guys offer, so anybody that goes to the website, I've had the website up a couple times. Take advantage of this, Ashley. Is there anywhere people are like, God, I want to kind of, obviously you can get a demo right at livingsecurity.com. But if anybody wants to kind of kick the tires, what's the first step that they need to take? Just come schedule for a demo?
Yeah. Come get a demo. We also love our proof of concepts. We love doing proof of concepts. We have an 80% conversion rate on our POCs.
Wow.
And really, like the more recent ones have been at 100. We are not losing POCs right now because I stand behind what we deliver, right? Like, you'll know within 30 days, you'll be able to see what a difference HRM platform can make for your organization.
That's huge, Ashley. I'm so glad that you shared that because I wasn't prepared to ask, hey, what's your POC conversion? Because quite frankly, a lot of people don't know it or not all that proud. You definitely are proud of that, as you should be. So very cool. Love that. Okay, so you guys can see the website. I'm just been clicking away here trying to get some eye candy. By the way, your DNA of marketing obviously shines. Website looks great. You want to give a shout out to some of the people on your marketing team because website messaging, it all clicks. You know, I'm a huge brand guy. For those of you that don't know, when you see me strolling down the aisles of the show where you're going to be at next, there's a reason why I'm walking up to you, right? I'm either walking up to you because I love what I see and I want to give you props on it, or I'm disgusted at what I see and I want to help you. So yeah, give some props, Ashley, because
Yeah, no, so,
fantastic.
yeah, major shout out to the team and the marketing team. I like, of course, there's a core team internally. Um, Crystal, Leanne, Megan, but like this is a full kind of revenue team initiative, right? So it like we bring in our sales team, we bring in our product team, right? We bring in we bring everybody that's like interacting with the market, and we've just actually done a revamp of our messaging. So you're seeing
Awesome.
probably an interim, like a kind of an interim phase. There's another
Yeah.
one that's upcoming. So it's like messaging never ends, right? We're always going back. So yeah, I think, the team's done a phenomenal job. When I was walking around RSA, you see a lot of buzzwords and you're like, what the heck do these people do? Like, don't they do what that person
Yeah.
did over there? And so we really try to like stand out and differentiate, but also just like tell it like it is, right? Like tell people what you do and what you can help them with and what problems you solve. We recently at RSA, we did a theme, and actually one of our head of sales had actually come up with this a couple of years ago. And,
Yeah.
it just kind of sat there on the back burner. And then I was like, let's do that for RSA. So we did a Where's Waldo theme. So it's actually Risky Ryan. And if you like go on our LinkedIn page, you'll see some pictures, but it was really cool because the idea is like, and like maybe this is like dating us, right? EP back, like I was like all into the Where's Waldo, like I was like trying to look for him in all the books and stuff. And it's kind of like human risk management. You have all
Yeah.
these signals, you have all these people, like where are your 8 to 12% of high risk users? Can you find them?
Yep.
And so we had an actor at the booth and he had a beanie on. He was wearing like the whole costume. He had his laptop with his password 1234, and
I
he was
love
out
it.
walking around engaging with people. So it was a really, really fun, like kind of bringing it to life, right? In a fun way and in an engaging way, in an approachable way for people. But yeah, we have a lot of fun with marketing, and also we love our swag.
I
So
love it. Well, we're gonna have to figure out a way how I pop into Austin and we get a recording of you showing me how to work with the tool, going through a module. Like, I want to really capture that because I think, it's one thing talking about it, and you've done a fantastic job here, but it's another thing seeing it. The whole thing with from a marketing standpoint, hearing it, seeing it, kinesthetic, touching it. You got it all here. You can hear it. There's interaction. There's gamification. So exciting. Like seriously, for a part of cybersecurity, a segment of cybersecurity that for the most part is the eyes rolling back. You guys bring a whole different element. I know the culture within your company's got to be fantastic too, and that bleeds over into the client relationships. Tell me, how many employees do you have now? Over
So
40 now?
we have 40 full-time employees and then
Okay,
a slew of contractors. So
awesome,
yeah,
so
we
cool.
went on the like kind of remote contractor train like many organizations. But look, we're like using AI and
Yeah,
finding tons of efficiency. And so I think like that's something we're really leaning into. We actually are hosting an all hands later this year. And so, you don't need to add as many headcount
yep.
as like anymore to like achieve
Gig
more
economy.
scale and get more
Gig
done.
economy. Yep. We got easy to run a lot thinner and have and hire smarter, better, stronger for those positions. But being able to lean on fractional is a very
Yeah.
popular thing.
And I would say like I would also
Yeah,
say just like healthier,
yeah,
right? So I mean we like look, we went through the ZERP eras and you've been in business for quite some time and we all know what that did, right? There's a lot of companies, including us, that burned through a lot of capital. and it doesn't make for a healthy company. And so
No,
I
it
think that's
doesn't.
something like
Ooh,
we've gotten very financially disciplined as an organization, and like AI and all these tools and being more efficient is really important for
yep.
us.
Talk about you kind of went there for a second. Culture. How would you describe the culture at Living Security in one word?
Oh, in one word?
Yeah, you got one word. You gotta think of, okay, I'll give you two. So if it's a combo, if you gotta
I
put
was
two
like,
together.
all of a sudden you said that, and all my core values like came to, but they're all like 3 words.
Okay, okay. I'm feeling generous today. I'll let you do three words.
All right.
3 words to describe the culture at Living Security with Ashley Rose.
Play to win. Play to win.
Like that.
That's
Nice. By the way, if
that's
you
one
didn't
of our
catch it
core
earlier,
values.
Ashley Rose is not only CEO, but the co-founder is her husband, Drew. Shout out to Drew. Very cool. I mean, family oriented. I know it's got to be a family vibe in there, and you probably treat them like family, and that's why they're working hard for you. And it's exciting watching you grow. One thing I want to hit on, and then we're going to play a game. Social engineering. Let's go back to that because that was a hot topic. A number of companies that I got in front of, startups I got in front of, are specifically trying to go directly after using AI to identify, predict, prevent attacks that are specifically social engineered. So with social engineering attacks getting, scarcely personal, how is Living Security actually helping companies get ahead of the threats before a mistake happens? And if you can use maybe a use case, maybe a POC where something was identified, that would be epic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, so we touched briefly on this around kind of like using AI to fight AI, right? How do we get
Mhm.
like hyper personalized and targeted, and how we're training, how we're simulating? But I think that like being proactive is actually at the core of what we do. It's all about being identifying risk and protecting against it versus a lot of tools that are out there that take more of a detection and response orientation, which are important. You actually need all of them, right, within your technology stack, but we're all about being proactive. And
Yeah.
so, like, very simply, how we do that is we're combining 3 types of signals on our users. So we're looking at their behavior, and so if they have, potentially malicious behavior, if they're deviating from baseline, right, all of those things are signals into our platform. We're also looking at the external threat. So what is targeting? Are your users getting targeted with an enormous amount more malicious email than they had before, right?
Mhm.
And then the third is access and identity. So does this user have access to a lot of sensitive information, elevated permissions? So if
Sure.
they were to become compromised, their blast radius is greatly
Like that.
increased
Yep.
compared to others.
Execs obviously with more
Executives,
access, right?
EAs, engineers,
Sure.
architects, right? And so systems architects. So
Mhm.
we take those 3 factors and then we give someone a risk score. But it's not just based on their behavior alone, because maybe you have somebody that has really bad behavior, but they're not getting a lot of targeted attacks, and they don't have a lot of access to their system. That person clicks on an email that is a simulated phishing email. That click is not the same as somebody else who has access to a lot of sensitive data. They're getting highly targeted, and they're also clicking on their real phishing emails. And so, like, no 2 clicks are the same is something that we say.
I was just
And
going to ask you,
with
hold on. Have you come up with another term that has to do with the clicking, like click ratio, like something
there's
real?
all that out there. But like what's really important is that like no 2 clicks are the same. And with
Yeah.
security awareness and phishing training, you're treating it everyone the same. If they click, they're getting the same training, the same consequence, the same whatever as the next person. What we need to figure out is where are our high risk users? Are they clicking? That's a real problem. So I'm going to pull
I
up
want a shirt.
here.
I want a shirt from Ashley Rose Living Security that says no 2 clicks are the same. I want that for Black
We
Hat.
probably do need to put that on a shirt.
If you get that for me for Black
I'll
Hat,
get
I
you
will
one.
wear it.
All right. So I'm going to give you a customer story. So we have a very large healthcare customer, and they integrated our tool, and they were able to identify their most vulnerable employees for social engineering. As I said, those who are most phished, most targeted, and they have the largest elevated access.
Nice.
And so what they did was they identified that high risk cohort, And then they put in some real-time workflow automation to do training, nudging, all of that, right? So when we see those individuals, if they're getting highly targeted, we're going to send them a note and let them know, hey, we're seeing an increased number of potentially malicious emails, like batten down the hatches, please be vigilant, right? And then when they clicked, right, we were sending them notifications and nudges. When they got simulated phishing, we reminded them to ensure that they were reporting. And so there was all of this workflow and automation to ensure that we're like coaching them along this journey. And over the course of 2 quarters, we looked at that same cohort and we were able to reduce that group to under, I'm looking at the numbers here, 0.005% of the organization. This is a very large healthcare organization. I'm not going to give numbers because I don't want you to, obviously we're super sensitive, but
there's your ROI.
Yeah, huge ROI. And so it wasn't about, can I reduce my phishing click rate from 4 to 3%? Great. Right. Well, if you do that, you can do that, by manipulating the sophistication of the emails. But like, what we really want to be doing is we want to be reducing the number of high risk and highly susceptible for social engineering attacks, that cohort in the organization. Let's make that smaller.
Yeah.
That's going to be much more impactful for an organization than just, a blanketed click rate reduction.
Ashley, did you ever think 10 years ago that you'd be in cybersecurity doing what you're doing, running a cybersecurity company? Like, do you understand what you just rattled off in the last minute? The significance of that data that you're providing to a large healthcare organization, what it means to them so that they can talk to their executives, so they can talk to the board. I mean, that's like, did you think 10 years ago you'd be doing this?
I do not think so.
I know you're humble. I know you're humble, but like, pinch yourself. That's so cool. I props. I think it's what you're doing is amazing because look, we all have to have employees. We're all going to have humans that make human mistakes, but you're going into the data and actually helping companies learn from it and actually doing something with it. And then most importantly to me is that you're making the experience, the experience for the employees much more, not just effective, but enjoyable. There's the word. It's enjoyable. Like, hey, let's do this. Yeah, this is great. So kudos to you on that. But yeah, you be doing this 10 years ago?
No, I'm looking at the date. I'm like, where was I? May 13th of 2015. So no, I mean, I had moved to Austin in November of 2013. So I was working in a product role actually at my last organization, and we hadn't quite started thinking about the idea for living security. I think I've always known, and I've had companies, I'll put it in quotes because it was, like a hobby, but it was a learning experience, we'll call it that, in the past that I built. So I always knew like I was very entrepreneurial, and I knew like I wanted to solve big problems and really make an impact. Right. Like that's really what's motivated me. It's like, I love like building. I love like starting something from nothing. I love the idea of being able to take like different individuals' skill sets and like expertise and like put them together and figuring out like, okay, how do we go solve hard problems? And I knew I wanted to do something that was like meaningful. And
work-life balance. Like, I mean, you're also a super mom. 10 years ago, I don't think you were a mom. I don't know how old your oldest one is, but you have.
So all of my kids are over 10.
Okay. So
I have I have 11, 13, and 17.
Okay. So I can remember the ages. So I mean,
10 years ago.
How do you manage work-life, the work-life balance? I'll speak for myself. Like, my twins are 20 now. But I remember, let's go 15 years ago. Like it was, I measured my travel. I kept my travel measured to a more of a minimal until they hit like, 10. And then I'm like, all right, 10, here I go. I'm going to go travel with the job. But like, that's difficult as a parent. And I'm not just saying as a mom, just as a parent, like, how do you find that mix? Is it a massive challenge? Do you have a rhythm? Do you have a system?
Yeah. Well, you didn't know this, so we could take this out if we want. but like you kind of struck a nerve with me. I do not believe in work-life balance. Like, and
Okay.
as I will like tell that to my team. Like I've said it on podcasts before. Like I just think like when you say work-life balance, you're like setting people up for failure. And especially when you're in a startup, like don't
Yeah,
come to a
describe.
startup looking
Yeah,
for
I want to hear
work-life
that.
balance. So for me, it's really more about like kind of work-life integration. And so,
Okay.
like if I
I
have
like
to
that.
get up, like if I have to leave, because my kid is sick or has an emergency, like I'm going to do that. Right. And like that is what it is. But there
Yeah.
are times when like the company needs me or I need to be on the road or I
Right.
need to be traveling. And it's a season that I need to like run hard. I am not going to have balance during that season, but like that's okay. That's a choice that I'm making. And so I think like if you come to a startup, you need to be ready to like work hard. You're going to have to sacrifice. I think people that accomplish like great things, they have to sacrifice in other areas. Like you're not going to get everything. Like it's very, very challenging. But yeah, I think it's seasons. So if you find yourself like sprinting hard and you need to go and rest, right, and recover and like spend time with your kids and spend time with your family, like awesome, do that. Like take advantage and then like be ready to get back out and like run the next sprint. So so I think again, like I'm not a believer in balance. And I did say to myself though, like the one thing I've always held myself accountable to is I said, because we started a company, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if it's
Nope.
going to succeed or fail, whatever. Right. So I said, like, no matter what happens with this company, like, I don't want to have regrets. So I couldn't just say like, oh, like I'm going to, give 100% of my time
Right.
here and like, because we want to go build $1 billion company. Well,
Sure.
great. Like that would be awesome. But if we don't, am I going to look back and be like, hey, I just missed like every part of my kids, childhood. So I said, I'm going to build this thing. We're going to go all for it. But like, I need to do it without regrets. And so
Well,
I'll share. I know we're at the end of our time, but I just got a Mother's Day card this is Mother's Day.
Happy belated Mother's Day, by the way.
From my eldest, and she's 17. And I wish I had it with me. I'm probably gonna like put it in my purse, just like carry it around. But she actually wrote like, she's like that. I am her biggest role model, and like the things that she called out were, I mean, they included things like like my motivation and like how I like go after my goals, like how I've been able to build this company. Like she sees the work and effort that I'm doing here, and like following my passions, right?
Love that.
And like doing something impactful, like she sees that as something like she wants to strive for, and said like, I want my life to look like yours later. So like there's like many parts of my life that like I don't want her to emulate, but I thought it was for me, it was like good recognition and a reflection and saying like yes, I gave up a lot, but like they saw that they could pursue their dreams too, and like I want that for them.
So my second shirt from Living Security is going to be work-life integration. I love that. I'm not going to cut that out. That was fantastic. And thank you for sharing that heartfelt story with your daughter. I bet that there's a lot of other young women getting into technology and they're listening to this. I hope so. I know so because I just went to a couple of women community nonprofit events at RSA. I hope that they listen to this, and I too know that they'll be listening and looking at what you've done and say, okay, you know what, I love this. They're going to reach out to you. So I'm definitely going to give a plug so they can find you out there on LinkedIn. And obviously we've already talked about Living Security. Can you give me a few more minutes before we buzz out? Are you good?
I've got maybe like 2 minutes, and I gotta run to my next one.
We'll just do one. I wanted to play a game, but you know what? So much good stuff that came out of here. So we're just gonna do one quick one. It's called Human or Hacker, and I'm just gonna put one at random up here that you can see, and I'll share this out, and hopefully.
Oh no!
So you basically got to tell me human or hacker on this one right here. So what do we have up on the screen? Connects to a free airport Wi-Fi. We've all been there. Connects to a free airport Wi-Fi network with no login required. Is that a human or a hacker?
Both will do that.
That's good. We'll do one more.
Okay.
Send a calendar invite with a weird looking Zoom link.
Oh, I would say hacker on that one, but
That's a hacker.
I've known some like crazy people that don't know how to operate on Zoom
Yeah. Last one. Forgets their badge and asks to be let in by someone else at the side door. Human or hacker?
So both, but this is definitely a hacker technique. This is a social engineer at their finest, and I can't say I haven't done some of this myself just to test out people's physical security.
We've all been there.
Hygiene.
We've all been there, and as I mentioned earlier, I want you to have a chance for people to find you. So, Ashley, thank you for being on the show. Give people some information how they can find you out there on LinkedIn. Go ahead and throw out the website again. And even if you're going to be at a conference anytime in the next 30 days or so, maybe you can run into some people and have a nice little sideline meeting.
Yeah, livingsecurity.com, obviously. Visit our website. And then I am on LinkedIn, Ashley M. Rose, and I'm always at conferences. So I think a lot of ours are on our website. But I don't know where I'm going to be next. So I'll keep you updated.
Always traveling around. You are an awesome guest, and I'm super excited that you accepted to come on in short notice. And
wait, I got one. I got a shameless plug. We are going to host the first ever in-person human risk management conference.
Ooh.
And that's coming up. It's going to be attached to the F1 race here in Austin. So I will keep you updated on the dates. And yes, we gave away some prizes at RSA. So there was a drawing for people that entered into it. So now we're
gonna hype this event. Number one.
Yes.
Number one, hype it. Number two, I need to be there interviewing people and doing what I do. So you and I are gonna talk sideline on that.
We'll talk. All right, I gotta go. Thank you.
I love that. All right, listen, guys, and Ashley, I know you got to get going, so I'll let you escape out of here, and I will catch you soon because she's a CEO and she's got to get on to the next show. So, Ashley, thank you for being here as I close out today. All right, guys. So, listen, another epic episode here, Epic Hype with Ashley Rose. It was fantastic. To all 8 loyal enthusiasts, I thank you all so very much for taking out some of your precious time to be with Ashley and myself today. I also want to thank Kendo for being our main sponsor today. Again, Kendo brings AI native security and automation to DevOps, SecOps, and IT ops. Streamline your operations, cut alert fatigue, and resolve incidents autonomously with intelligent alerts. Check out kendo.ai to learn more and tell them that EP sent you. To catch more full-length Epic Hype episodes and short clip content, you guys can follow me over at Epic Starts with EP. I'm over on YouTube, we're on Insta, we're on TikTok, we're everywhere. Of course, you can also follow me at edwardpreston.ai over on LinkedIn. And you can also find more entertaining episodes over there at YouTube. So just do me a favor. If you do, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe to keep the mojo going. That's a wrap. Tie it up with a bow. My name is EP. This is Epic Hype, reminding all of you that everything epic starts with EP. Take care, guys, and make it an epic day.